Ooh. Stop. Apparently, there was some big lawsuit between two dudes, and I don't know anything about it, but apparently a lot of people are mad about it. How do you spell this dude's name? Jobst. It's over.
What's good, homies? Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. What up? All right. Hello.
Back to Grim. Today we're going to talk about some crazy YouTube news where literally just about an hour ago before making this video, we found out that a YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers was just forced to pay about $400,000 in damages because of an ongoing court case that we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty and kind of share my thoughts on this whole situation because this is just crazy for the landscape of YouTube. I feel like
this is crazy, chat. Okay, I'm going to give you the worst background ever, because I don't know anything about this case. I just read like 3 comments this morning. So supposedly, one of these guys was getting sued by another guy. And he said, this guy's suing me just because I said that he cheated at his speed run or something. But apparently, he did a lot more than that. And that came out, I guess, in the court case. And now everybody's like ass pained about him.
we're going to see a trend of YouTubers getting taken to court and taking L's, and it's just kind of like a discussion I feel like we need to have as we're moving into a, you know, dystopian hellscape in terms of social media, where, like I said, I feel like this could be happening a lot more. So make sure you watch until the very end of the video, because
I'm going to be honest, as somebody who's no stranger to getting sued, I actually think that the increase in litigation has the potential to be a good thing, because right now there's like no standards for just saying the most unhinged, insane shit about anybody ever. And maybe if there, you know, was some kind of actual penalty for just fucking straight out lying or defaming people, maybe people would be a little bit more cautious at least while doing it. I don't know. I think it's okay.
Because this whole story is full of lies, deceit, pretty much every bad thing you could imagine. And honestly, it's a very muddy case. So what we're going to be talking about today is a YouTuber, Karl Jobst, who many of you might have heard of. A lot of you probably will not know a single person in this story, and I don't blame you, but he makes videos on speedrunning slash game achievements, I guess you could say. So speedrunning is basically playing a game as fast as you can, but that's not really the niche we're talking about today, because he made a video on this man, Billy Mitchell, who, according to himself, talking from Billy's perspective here, was one of the greatest gamers back in the day. I mean, this dude was a boomer who was out playing in arcades before we really had a way to track highest scores. You know, there weren't forums where people were nerding out over this stuff. And he claims to have the world record Donkey Kong score, which he has been standing by for years. And Karl over here has made a series of videos. And when I say a series, I mean, this has been ongoing for, I don't know how many years. I've been subscribed to this guy for a long time, although I don't watch his videos all that often, I'll be honest. But I know he's been making videos about this case and this man for probably at least a half decade at this point. And you see, that got Karl into some hot water, because he is now facing, or has faced, legal action against himself from Billy, who claims that he has defamed him. And a lot of people see this and they're like, oh man, we're talking about Billy Mitchell here. Like, this guy's the biggest tool on the planet, at least from what you see about this guy. Again, I don't know that much about him, but everything I have heard about him makes him seem like he's kind of the living embodiment of Tom Cruise's character in Tropic Thunder. I don't know. I just feel like people who box dye their hair black when it's clearly gray, like old people like that, they're just not to be trusted, all right? But anyways, I don't want to say too much, because I mean, look at where this got Karl. But no, we're gonna—
There was a whole documentary about Donkey Kong records. I feel like if it was a YouTube thing, I feel like we've watched one of these before. Or is this the same guy that, like, cracked the case on exposing the biggest fucking cheater ever in Tetris or some bullshit? Am I making this up? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Talk about why he—
Stop. Everybody's complaining that chat looks ugly. When you read books in real life, the background is light. Okay, dark mode is not a normal, natural way to read anything on the internet. You guys have been brainwashed by shitty UIs. It's not even better for your eyes. You just have never just—
But anyways, I don't want to say too much, because I mean, look at where this got Karl. But no, we're going to talk about why he got sued here and how the hell Billy was able to win. Because at a glance, you hear this story and you think, okay, guy cheated in a video game. How much can he really be defaming him here? And that's where we get into some seriously muddy water. So now I have to introduce a third character named Apollo Legend, who also, in the same vein as Karl, would make these videos about speedrunners and the like, or just video game achievements in general. And as a result of that, talked about a lot of people people who cheated, he would make videos on Billy himself, and they both kind of honestly transformed into drama channels mixed in with the concept of video games. Again, I don't expect many of you to know of these channels. Apollo Legend was quite smaller. I think he has a few 100,000 subscribers. Nothing to scoff at, but not the level of Karl. But that is also because, sadly, half a decade ago, or I believe maybe 4 years ago, Apollo, after battling with mental health issues for his entire life apparently, decided to do something drastic. I'm sure you can extrapolate. Transformed into drama channels. A third character transformed into some seriously muddy water. So now I have to introduce a third character named Apollo Legend, who also, in the same vein as Karl, would make these videos about speedrunners and the like, or just video game achievements in general. And as a result of that, talked about a lot of people who cheated. He would make videos on Billy himself, and they both kind of honestly transformed into drama channels mixed in with the concept of video games. Again, I don't expect many of you to know of these channels. Apollo Legend was quite smaller. I think he has a few 100,000 subscribers. Nothing to scoff at, but not the level of Karl. But that is also because, sadly, half a decade ago, or I believe maybe 4 years ago, Apollo, after battling with mental health issues for his entire life apparently, decided to do something drastic. I'm sure you can extrapolate what I mean by that, and I'm very sorry I have to skirt around this topic, but it's obviously something very sensitive, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, that Apollo guy was trapped up in a lot of drama himself. Don't get me wrong. You can look.
Okay. How does Apollo relate to this? All right, let's go. Oh, never mind. I understand. Okay, we're good.
There's a lot of people that had some serious distaste for that dude, but nobody wants to see that be the final result of anybody's life. So anyways, the reason I talk about him is because around the time of him making that decision, he also was being sent to court by Billy, who was making claims that he was defaming him, I believe, in his videos, a very similar vein to what's going on with Karl right now. And the timing to Karl, at least, seemed a little suspect. So he started talking about in these videos, because again, you have to remember, these have been videos that are being uploaded pretty much at least monthly about Billy Mitchell here, kind of egging him on, you know, like, yes, these videos are entertaining and it's funny to laugh at the guy who has such an ego that he feels he needs to kind of fib about these game scores and ride by them so viciously in his later life. Like, I get why the videos were made, but this is where Karl really started to, I don't know, twist his idea of what was okay to say in these videos. And I think this is happening a lot to YouTubers. You get clicks from being inflammatory and hating on people and making this drama,
I would
and
never
it's
do
so
that.
addicting, especially when you see the effects for your wallet and just for your fan base. You know what I mean? It's profitable. I get it, but it's something that I've dealt with in my past. I feel like you reach this level where it becomes a really negative feedback loop, and that's exactly what happened to Karl here as he was making these videos and started to sprinkle in the idea or concept that, again, Apollo Legend made this heartbreaking decision, and he was kind of insinuating, or more than insinuating, according to this judge that just made this ruling, that Billy's lawsuit was a big reason, if not the only reason, that Apollo made that decision. Now, that is absolutely insane to say for many reasons, but for one, you're not in Apollo's brain, so you don't know that, okay? He was making these...
Where do these weird brain arguments come from? When did this start to be a thing that, like, you can't mind read people? What? Also, I have no strong opinion on this case. I haven't listened much yet to it, so I'm just saying in general, this weird thing of, like, we can't know what he was thinking. I mean, like, we're human beings. We it's part of being a human is figuring out what other people are thinking without actually knowing, right? Just as a daily reminder, okay, you actually can never, ever, ever have direct access to a person's thoughts. You will never know what a person is actually directly thinking. You always have to make inferences for this. It's part of the human experience.
Claims that Apollo was having to pay all this money, and the guilt and shame and stress of that situation is what caused him to make this decision. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this too long because it's not really a topic.
Is 400K really that much for these types of YouTubers? 400K is a lot of money. Yes. Well, I feel like people's scale of money is very strange sometimes. 400K would be a lot of money for me. That's a lot of money. Unless these guys are fucking hugely massive people that I'm not aware of. That's a lot of money. It's $500,000. That's like 2 decent Porsches.
Topic I want to talk about at length, but as I mentioned before, Apollo had some very serious issues going on mentally that were chronicled over a long series of dramas and, you know, falling out with friends in the same internet space for years before he decided to make that decision. And when he did make that decision, he did specifically name, shockingly, I really don't agree with this, certain people in the scene that, quote, pushed him to do this.
Wait.
Really issues going on mentally that were chronicled over a long series of dramas in-laws and, you know, falling out with friends in the same internet space for years before he decided to make that decision. And when he did make that decision, he did specifically name, shockingly, I really don't agree with this, certain people in the scene that, quote, pushed him to do this. Billy was never mentioned, all right? Also, it comes out...
Ooh, that's... Wait, so the guy put names at a suicide note? Okay, number one, based, okay? I've always said if you want to fuck some dude's career over, if you want to hurt me, if you're going to kill yourself, you should just, like, throw in the suicide note. Like, by the way, doing it because of this guy. Oof. That's like an insta-win debate, because you can't even argue against him, because the dude's dead. Damn.
In this court hearing, which I'm talking about a lot, this is what happened today, where the judge ruled that Karl lost and is going to have to pay these hundreds and thousands of dollars, which we're going to get to. According to the judge, that is what this...
Oh, but the fact that he made all of those... the fact that he named all those people and he didn't name this guy probably hurts one dude's case. My gut instinct on this is you have no case. I don't understand how you could sue somebody for defamation because they said that you caused somebody to kill themselves. Like, how could you ever say that that statement is like knowing me? Like you could have that. You could be of that opinion. No, I don't know. We'll find out, I guess.
Have to pay these hundreds and thousands of dollars, which we're going to get to. According to the judge, that is what this entire ruling was about. A lot of people are like, dude, Billy won? Like, what the hell? The internet lost today. This better be an April Fool's. Like, of course it's insane to see this douchebag win. But you have to look at it from the angle of this isn't simply about the YouTube videos themselves, defaming him from, you know, being an elite gamer. No, it's because Karl was insinuating that this other
insinuating?
Creator that was in his space that made that decision, that very, very grim decision, he only did that because of Billy Mitchell taking him to court and taking all this money from him, which the judge in this video says that Karl even got in contact with Billy, who proved this was false. He did not take any money from him, and then also asked Apollo's sibling after the fact, which Apollo's sibling also said this was not about that. He didn't mention him for a reason. That was not really an element of why he made this decision. So even in the wake of that, Karl kept making these claims, and that is exactly why this decision was made today. It really sucks to see somebody who I still see as the villain, aka Billy, win in this. Trust me, I'm on that same bandwagon as everybody else on the internet right now who are like, oh, come on, how can this be? Like, this is such a fat L for YouTubers in general because it does set kind of a negative precedent. But also, I don't find myself thinking that many YouTubers are gonna be in this situation. I mean, you seriously have to follow a long line of corruption of your own mind to start making these super heinous claims against somebody. I mean, I don't care how much drama I would ever be in against Big Ed, let's say, who is probably my biggest op on my YouTube channel, of course. I've done the same thing where I've made a ton of content about him, but I hope you can all see that I've teetered a line where it's more about what I'm seeing in the show and him as a person and comments on his personality, which are all shown on the show, and not me claiming that he made somebody else make this terrible decision to end themselves or anything along those lines. Like, as soon as you muddy the waters like that, that's where you really start to lose some, you know, ability to fight this in court. And this has been going on for God knows how long, so I don't know how much money Karl has invested into this court case, but I can tell you right now the results, which you're all wanting to hear. I'm sorry it took me so long to get through, but I had to, you know, kind of tell you what the situation was beforehand so everybody understood. But thanks to this forum user, randomly-random67, who summed this all up, saying Karl is ordered to pay damages of $300,000 for non-economic loss and $50,000 for aggravated damages to Billy Mitchell. He must also pay interest at 3% per annum from the first date of publication to today, which comes to $34,668.
So in damages cases and tort civil suits, you can sue for your primary thing. I wish I'd... No, I'm too lazy. There's a primary thing called compensatory damages, which is where these are like the actual damages that you've suffered as a result of a thing, and then you can be awarded afterwards like secondary damages. These can include things like punitive damages, where somebody's like, oh, like this was so bad and we need to discourage you from doing it again, and the jury really likes the plaintiff and they cried it or whatever. I'm being a bit being mean about that. You know, I'm not. It's not mean. Like you can be awarded a lot for secondary damages for good reason. Okay, I don't mean to make that sound trivial. But so if I'm reading this correctly, that means that $300,000 for non-economic loss, that's still, these are all just primary damages. Like, so these are like some type of damage that's been shown. I think that non-economic damage is Is this called liquidated damages or something? Where are my legal people at? But I think so none of this was like punitive or anything, right? That all of these would be considered primary, I think, but.
And 50 cents for the non-economic loss and $5,778.08 for the aggravated damages. He must also pay the legal costs of proceedings if they don't seek an alternative cost order in 14 days. Damn. This brings the total damages to $390,446.58 plus Billy Mitchell's legal costs, which again.
Also, so this went like, did this go all the way to trial? That's exceptionally rare. Like, I think less than 1% of all filed cases will actually see a courtroom. So and I think the judge was like reading something about this. So it's pretty insane that it went this far.
Again, could easily get into the hundreds, if not multiple hundreds of thousands, with how long this court case has been gone on. So talk about a seriously hard lesson to learn. I mean, I just have so many mixed feelings about this, and you guys can tell why. I know my retelling of this story is kind of scrambled, but I'm trying to get this video out with a speed so that you can really get my first thoughts on this, because this is insane to see a YouTuber lose in court like this and really honestly almost lose everything. I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if this is about the same amount of money that he made from the videos on Billy. So hopefully he has something saved up there where he can pay this off. I couldn't imagine this is life-altering amounts of money to owe to somebody, especially somebody who still...
Is it life-altering amounts of money? Yeah, probably, but it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Generally, people are like, oh, I spent so much money on the court, millions and millions of dollars. Most people lie about how much all that shit costs. It's fucking bullshit. But if this was actually a court case that was going on for over a year and they got all the way to trial, I'm guessing he didn't represent himself. He had an actual, like a trial lawyer, like a litigator that did everything. It wouldn't surprise me if the court costs or if the legal fees for him were in excess of like $200,000. That's crazy. And then that's going to depend on how much work went into like preparing everything and how much stuff his attorneys had to read. Geez, like that could get pretty expensive.
Like I said, is not the nice guy in the story. Now, it's also not clear if that's in Australian dollars or American dollars, but even if you convert it to American dollars, I believe that's still over $250,000 that he's going to be owing. And according to the judge, he felt it was actually valid to charge him for more for the aggravated damages portion, saying that these things that he was saying about Apollo Legends situation with Mitchell in all of his videos was actually such targeted harassment that the judge felt that...
He tweeted over 600K? 600K, that sounds like... I mean, I don't even know how to ballpark it. That sounds like a lot. I could definitely believe over 200K. But he said Australian, though. Is this in Australian dollars? Maybe it's different. This case would never work in America to be... Oh, that's another... Okay. Yeah, because I'm so curious what the judge said. We'll listen afterwards. Because I'm like, are these defamatory statements? I don't think these would qualify. But different countries have wildly different interpretations of defamation and everything than the United States does. We have an extensive like freedom of speech in the U.S. when it comes to talking shit.
That it was a clear decision. These are not light things.
Wait, this is the end of the video? This guy didn't go over fucking anything. What the fuck? Okay, we're just listening to the judge.
The plaintiff, William Mitchell III, commonly known as Billy Mitchell, lives in Florida, United States of America. He has been...
And he sued from the U.S.? Damn, this motherfucker. Oh! So it said, I've read this. I don't know how true it is, but I've always read that it's like not very favorable to go to another country to do courts there because people just look at you like a foreigner. Like it's just not good. Like one of the reasons why the WTO exists and third-party arbitration exists for things like international agreements and everything is because nobody wants to have to fucking sue somebody in their home country's court. It just feels like shit, and it just feels like they're all against you. So the fact that this motherfucker sued him in Australia, damn. Okay. Damn.
Been well known among adherents of video and arcade gaming in many countries, including Australia, since 1982. At an arcade and video gaming competition in November that year that took place in Ottumwa, Iowa, USA, playing an arcade game called Donkey Kong.
Wait, I gotta put my teeth thing in. Hold on, or my teeth's in.
Mitchell scored a world record 874,300 points. And was the first person ever recorded as reaching the kill screen, that is, reaching the end of the game. At the time, he was 17 years of age.
Wow.
Mr. Mitchell went on to be recognized as having achieved a number of world records and world firsts in video and arcade gaming.
Good for you, Billy.
They included achieving the first perfect score of 3,333,360 in another game called Pac-Man in 1999, setting a new world record and the first score of over 1 million points, the record being 1,047,200 points in Donkey Kong in June 2005, another Donkey Kong world record of 1,050,200 points in July 2007, and a third Donkey Kong world record of 1,062,800 points in July 2010.
Guy's a gaming god.
Those records were recognized by such bodies as Guinness World Records and Twin Galaxies, which is an American company that organizes gaming competitions and keeps a database of records and rankings across various gaming platforms. In 2017, Mr. Mitchell was accused of having cheated in achieving his Donkey Kong World Records by allegedly using computer emulation software instead of original arcade hardware. Twin Galaxies investigated the accusation, and in April 2018, it announced that it had concluded that 2 of Mr. Mitchell's world record scores were not produced by the direct feed output of an original, unmodified Donkey Kong arcade printed circuit board, or PCB. It was not able to determine whether the third score was produced on original arcade gaming hardware or with the use of emulation software. As a consequence of its findings, it announced that it had decided to remove all of Mr. Mitchell's scores and to ban him from participating in its competitive leaderboards. The following day, Guinness World Records announced that as a consequence of Twin Galaxies' decision, it too had disqualified Mr. Mitchell as the holder of all his records, both in Donkey Kong and in Pac-Man.
That's fucked.
Mr. Mitchell commenced proceedings in the United States for defamation against Twin Galaxies and a number of others. One of those lawsuits was against a young man, Benjamin Smith.
Wait, don't know if this matters, but lawyers in the U.S. typically refer to Australia as a nanny state, and that it has a lot of laws regulating what people can do, so maybe that makes defamation cases easier. That might be the case. I think that maybe Australia is special, but I think in most other countries, it's significantly easier to sue somebody for defamation than it is in the United States. The example that I'm the most familiar with, obviously, the guy that wrote the trilogy that we're reading about Hitler wrote another book called Lying About Hitler, where he talks about being an expert witness for the David Irving trial in the UK. David Irving sued Deborah Lipstadt or something, because he said that she lied about him being like a Hitler supporter or something, basically. He claimed that she lied about that. And whether she believed it or not, it didn't matter. What mattered was she had to prove that he was lying about Hitler, because in British courts, that was the standard for defamation. If somebody lies about you, even if they thought it was true, if they reported it or if they said it, they can still be held liable for defamation. So the only way to beat those cases, you have to actually prove that what you said was true, which is significantly different than in the United States. We just have to prove that you weren't acting in bad faith.
Who was known online as Apollo Legend. I refer to him as Apollo Legend in my reasons. He published videos on YouTube about gaming.
Fuck, I should file a petition to the court for my case to have them refer to me as Destiny. Hell yeah, just kidding. Video games.
Including a number in which he accused Mr. Mitchell of cheating, falsifying his Donkey Kong scores, and not using legitimate gaming hardware.
What?
Mr. Mitchell and Apollo Legend settled that proceeding on 22 August 2020. Their agreement relevantly provided that Apollo Legend would remove all of his YouTube videos and social media posts that referred to Mr. Mitchell. He would assign the copyright in those YouTube videos to Mr. Mitchell, and he would permanently cease producing any oral, written, or electronic documents or communications that in any way mentioned or referred to Mr. Mitchell or his family, apart from making an agreed statement in terms provided in the settlement agreement.
Ooh, that's a big one. So if I understand correctly, one of the reasons why people are apparently very upset about this is because they're saying that the Billy guy, I don't know these two guys' names, not the Billy guy, but the other guy, said that this court case was a lot narrower than it actually was, or that it had to do with different subject matter than what it actually did have to do with. So people thought it was like a slam dunk case. If there was a prior agreement about somebody not speaking about somebody else, though, that's going to be a big thing that I imagine factors in here. But so it sounds like Billy, whatever, had already sued this guy, and that was part of the agreement that they'd reached, was that this guy wouldn't talk about him anymore, but okay.
Any breach by Apollo Legend of the last of these obligations would result in him being liable to Mr. Mitchell for $25,000 for each breach. Unless he committed such a breach, he did not have to pay Mr. Mitchell any money. Apollo Legend appears to have complied with that agreement. However, on 20 December 2020, he published a video on YouTube, referred to in this proceeding as his goodbye video, in which he told viewers that he was recording his final video. He said, "This is the end of my life," and he explained why.
Oh, wait. That's the other guy. He's talking about the guy who killed himself. Yeah, okay. Gotcha. My bad. I don't know any of these fucking people. Okay.
In that video, he did not mention Mr. Mitchell, nor the claim against him or the settlement agreement. Shortly after publishing it, he committed suicide. Defendant Karl Jobst lives in Queensland. He regularly publishes videos on YouTube.
Somebody in my YouTube chat, so this is a YouTube chatter, okay, I don't know the veracity of the statement. Somebody said that even though he didn't mention the guy in his suicide note, he did mention the case. Does anybody know if that's true or not? Okay, nobody, okay, I don't know, no one's saying anything.
YouTube, mostly about speedrunning, but also about video and arcade gaming world records and people who cheat in those games. He has over 1 million followers on his YouTube channel. On 26 May 2021, he published a video about Mr. Mitchell and another video gamer, Todd Rogers, entitled "The Biggest Conmen in Video Game History Strike Again." He accused Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Rogers of cheating and of pursuing unmeritorious litigation against people who had accused them of cheating. He also said the following about Mr. Mitchell, quote, "He also sued YouTuber Apollo Legend for $1 million. I haven't spoken about this publicly, but this lawsuit ultimately ended with Apollo giving in and settling with Mitchell. He was forced to remove all his videos about Mitchell's cheating and paid him a large sum of money."
Is that a guy whose videos we've watched before? I feel like we watched some videos before on, like on the guy cheating. Like, have we? Have I watched these on stream before? And it was like, oh shit, because this guy had like, this is a guy who had like a fuck ton of world records or something, and then some dude made a series of videos, and then like all of them got taken away, basically. We did about the Donkey Kong emulator cheating? Okay, maybe we did.
This left him deeply in debt, which required him to find extra work, but with his ongoing health issues, this was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell...
The one time he reads chat, it's a BS claim. This is why we can't have nice things. Wow, there you go.
This was all too much of a burden, and he ultimately took his own life. Not that Billy Mitchell would ever care, though. In fact, when Billy Mitchell thought Apollo died earlier, he expressed joy at the thought. The lawsuit against Apollo was just as frivolous as the rest, and Apollo definitely would have won in court. But again, he was extremely ill and couldn't handle the ongoing stress. End
the King
quote.
of Kong, okay.
That video containing that passage was online for 10 days from 26 May 2021 to 4 June 2021, and for an additional 5 days from 9 June to 13 June 2021. In between those dates, and since 13 June 2021, the video has remained online, but it contains only the first 2 sentences and the last sentence of the passage that I have just read. While the video was first online in its full version, 2 relevant events occurred. First, on
Karl was one of the biggest speedrunning / niche gaming essay video channels, along with Summoning Salt, etc. Okay. And Karl is the guy who lost this lawsuit, right? Karl Jobst, okay. And then the Apollo guy is just, he was another guy who made videos about it, and then Billy Mitchell sued him for $1 million. They had some settlement agreement, and then he's the guy that killed himself, right? The Apollo dude. Okay.
3 June to commit suicide, and even called him a murderer, evil, and a scumbag.
Damn.
Similar comments have also been made on videos by other publishers on YouTube or other online media. The most recent that has been brought to my attention having been made in early 2024. In this action, Mr. Mitchell sues Mr. Jobst for defamation, claiming $400,000 in general damages and $50,000 in aggravated damages. Mr. Mitchell contends that the video, particularly the passage that I have read, made 5 defamatory imputations about him. Those imputations were, first, Mr. Mitchell had required Apollo Legend to pay him a large amount of money to settle Mr. Mitchell's defamation claim against him.
Okay, so in the United States, when it comes to defamation, I feel like I read these in regards to Giuliani's claims. I use this term, but I don't think it's the correct term. Okay, maybe it's a state-specific... No, wait. I'm so sorry. Hold on. I read a term called actionable statements. Insofar as it's not an actionable statement. I feel like I've read that. But basically, when it comes to defamation in the United States, the statement has to be something that is like a factual claim, I believe. Like the statement itself can't be, I think that John is an evil piece of shit. I think that John is a fucking loser. Like these statements, I don't believe can ever qualify as defamatory or libelous or slanderous statements because they're just opinions, right? I believe an actionable statement means a statement that is both false and defamatory and that it causes some harm to the plaintiff or his reputation. It is the plaintiff's burden to prove by a preponderance of evidence that the statement is false. In other words, it must be shown the fact that the statement was false is likely more accurate than not. Okay, I believe that it has to be like a thing of it has to purport like an actual fact that could be right or wrong, not like an opinion on something. Okay, I'm only saying that because the first thing that this judge brings up would be a true or false statement.
Apollo alleged about him. Those imputations were, first, Mr. Mitchell had required Apollo Legend to pay him a large amount of money to settle Mr. Mitchell's defamation claim against him.
So that sounds like that would just be a straight lie. If that's what Karl said, Billy would be correct in saying that would be a defamatory statement. He didn't require that. There was no reason to believe he required that, and that was just untrue.
Which caused Apollo Legend to go into considerable debt and to take on extra work to survive. Secondly, a major contributing factor in Apollo Legend's decision to take his own life was Mr. Mitchell's requirement that Apollo Legend pay him a large sum of money to settle the defamation claim.
Ooh, I wonder how, like, would you say compound junction logic statements? I don't know. I wonder how that works. Because he's giving an opinion, but if he's qualifying it with a thing that is factually untrue, I imagine it probably wouldn't be protected. Like if I were to say, I think that my friend John killed himself because Jane raped him. And if Jane didn't rape him, you might have an opinion on why John killed himself, but you can't, I don't know if you could just a couple of false facts with there. So these are just blatantly false statements. Okay.
Third, Mr. Mitchell had hounded Apollo Legend to death. Fourth, Mr. Mitchell was
hounded to death. Okay.
Third, Mr. Mitchell had hounded Apollo Legend to death. Fourth, Mr. Mitchell was the main cause, or alternatively a cause, of Apollo Legend taking his own life. And fifth, Mr. Mitchell's conduct was a contributing factor in Apollo Legend taking his own life. Mr. Jobst denied that the imputations alleged by Mr. Mitchell were made in the video. I have found that the video made each of those defamatory imputations. Ooh. Mr. Jobst also defended the claim on a number of other grounds. First, he alleged that Mr. Mitchell had a pre-existing bad reputation that meant that any of the defamatory imputations alleged would not have harmed him. That reputation, Mr. Jobst alleged, was threefold. First, Mr. Mitchell had cheated to gain recognition as the highest or one of the highest scorers in Donkey Kong. Secondly, he had used litigation processes to coerce others to recognize him as a world record holder in Donkey Kong and to refrain from identifying him as a person who had been found to have cheated at video arcade games. And third, that he would ostracize anyone he considered a threat to his world records in Donkey Kong. As to his alleged pre-existing bad reputation, I have found that Mr. Mitchell did have a reputation as a cheat in Donkey Kong and a reputation for suing people who alleged that he was a cheat. I have found that he did not have a reputation for ostracizing anyone he considered a threat to his achievements. Mr. Jobst's other principal defense was that the video made 5 other defamatory imputations.
This is, so in the United States, I believe even for civil stuff, you always have a right to a trial by jury, although sometimes, I think it's just called a bench trial for certain civil matters, and maybe even for criminal stuff. You can also elect to just have a judge overhear it instead of having a jury. In Australia, I don't know what those rights are. If they, it sounds like they elected to have just a judge over here, or maybe for civil tort or whatever in Australia, maybe it's always just a judge. I don't know.
Each of which was substantially true, and as a result of which, the imputations about which Mr. Mitchell complains did not cause any greater harm to him or his reputation. Those imputations, which are referred to in defamation law in Queensland as contextual imputations, were, first, Mr. Mitchell was publicly exposed as having cheated to achieve his record scores in Donkey Kong. Second, Mr. Mitchell was banned from submitting scores to Twin Galaxies for cheating. Third, Mr. Mitchell had planned to create a video that he could use fraudulently as evidence that he had achieved the score of 1,062,800 in Donkey Kong.
Oh no.
Fourth, Mr. Mitchell had callously expressed joy at the thought...
I'm so curious what this judge is thinking, like watching videos and figuring out, like, is this guy cheating in Donkey Kong?
in Donkey Kong. Fourth, Mr. Mitchell had callously expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legends' death. And fifth, Mr. Mitchell used litigation to force third parties to recognize his achievements in video gaming. I have found that all of those contextual imputations were made in the video. All but one of them were substantially true. It was not true that he had planned to produce a fraudulent video.
Wait, has the law changed? I thought that it was understood that he cheated. Correct? And I think the judge is actually saying as much, that he did cheat. However, Karl went further, and it sounds like he made a few statements that were just factually completely not true. So about him forcing this other Apollo guy, the suicided dude, to make a large settlement to him or stuff like that. Apparently these statements were just not true, but Karl made them anyway. So,
to be clear, I was not required to decide, nor did I decide, whether Mr. Mitchell had in fact cheated in gaining any of his world record scores. Mr. Jobst did not attempt to prove that finding by Twin Galaxies was correct.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I should be more clear because this is legal and he's being very specific. Okay, so when the judge said that he found these statements about him cheating or whatever to be true, he's not saying he found the statements true. He's saying he found it to be true that other bodies had decided this and that he had been, his scores had been removed or whatever. It sounds more specifically that's what the judge is saying.
Notwithstanding these findings, I have concluded that the defamatory imputations made by Mr. Jobst, that are the subject of Mr. Mitchell's claim, have caused substantial additional damage to Mr. Mitchell's reputation and have caused him considerable additional distress. Therefore, Mr. Jobst is liable to pay damages to Mr. Mitchell for those defamatory imputations. I shall come shortly to the amount of those damages. Mr. Mitchell also asserted that Mr. Jobst's conduct in publishing the video, and after doing so, was unjustifiable and caused additional personal hurt to Mr. Mitchell and harm to his reputation, which justifies the court awarding additional damages known as aggravated damages. This conduct, alleged by Mr. Mitchell, included, first, making the allegations recklessly and without checking their truth. Secondly, publishing the video twice. Thirdly, holding malice and pursuing a vendetta.
Okay, so it sounds like, I want to be so careful. In the United States, there's this older court case, New York Times v. Sullivan. It was a court case about the New York Times publishing defamatory statements, I think about a police commissioner during the civil rights era. But basically, the court found that in order to not create a chilling effect on media, if a public figure is going to sue somebody who's made statements in regards to their public conduct, you have to prove like an actual malice standard. They can't just be wrong, and they can't just be wrong and they like messed up. You have to show that they were acting with malice. They were intentionally lying, or they were acting with like reckless disregard for the truth or whatever. And it sounds like the judge did find this to be the case here. I don't know if that's required in Australia for these type of defamation cases, but it sounds like the judge is saying, unless these words mean something different in Australia, it sounds like he's saying that was the case here.
Debtor against Mr. Mitchell. Fourthly, mocking Mr. Mitchell's complaint about the video and his legal action. Fifthly, persisting in his contention that Mr. Mitchell's action against Apollo Legend had contributed to his decision to commit suicide. And sixthly, failing to apologise and to withdraw the allegation. I have found that Mr. Jobst was reckless in making the allegations. His assertions were based on a fallacy, namely that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell a large sum of money. That was simply wrong, and he had no reasonable basis for asserting it. Yet even after finding out the truth, he has continued to assert that the settlement had a negative financial impact on Apollo Legend, and that he still believes that the settlement was a contributing factor to his decision to commit suicide. Mr. Jobst was also reckless and vindictive in publishing the full video twice. At the time he republished it, he had been told by Mr. Mitchell via his response video, by their mutual acquaintance Keemstar, and by Mr. Mitchell's lawyers that what he had said about the payment was not true. He told Keemstar that he would not republish that part of the video unless he received concrete evidence that it was true. But by the time he republished it, he had not heard from Apollo Legend's brother.
Damn. And it sounds like, unless there was something as part of these statements that I'm missing, so it sounds like Billy Mitchell put him on notice as well, saying, hey, these statements are defamatory, they're not true at all, you have no reason to believe these are true, you need to take these down, and he didn't. So he even got notice for this.
Whom he had asked for information about the settlement, so he did not know any more than he had earlier, but he nevertheless decided to republish the entire video regardless. In his evidence, he said that he did this because he thought Mr. Mitchell would sue him anyway. His attitude appears to have been, well, if I'm going to be sued, I may as well go for broke and damn the consequences. It was...
Guys, there's probably no reason why Destiny put the white font with black background. It's April Fool's, okay? My admins have memed my chat up, and that's where we're at right now, okay?
Well, if I'm going to be sued, I may as well go for broke and damn the consequences. It was reckless.
Oh, no. Why? Oh, God, no. Why would you do this?
Well, if I'm going to be sued, I may as well go for broke and damn the consequences. It was reckless and showed an absolute disregard for the truth or for the effect of his video on Mr. Mitchell and his reputation. On 29 July 2021, that is about 6 weeks after he finally edited the video and took out the offending passage, Mr. Jobst published a video in which he retracted his statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell money, and he apologized to his viewers for having given them incorrect information. At the trial, he relied on that video as being evidence of his bona fides and as reducing any harm caused to Mr. Mitchell by his original video. However, that video did not retract the imputations at all. It simply retracted the statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell a large sum of money. Mr. Jobst did not apologize to Mr. Mitchell in any way, rather apologizing to his viewers for having made an incorrect statement in the offending video. Also, this retraction video was, in total, a little over 30 minutes long. For the first 28 minutes and 24 seconds, it had nothing to do with arcade gaming, cheating, or Mr. Mitchell, but was about a particular type of speedrunning. It then went blank for a few seconds before it returned with Mr. Jobs' alleged retraction statement, which itself lasted only about 45 seconds. Even then, he wrongly said that Mr. Mitchell had not tried to contact him to clear up the error, and he insinuated that he still believed that Mr. Mitchell was responsible for Apollo Legend's decision. Finally, Mr. Jobs' conduct of this litigation, together with his additional online comments about it, were aggravating features of his conduct. He seems to see himself in defending this claim as a crusader against Mr. Mitchell. He is the last of the defendants who have been sued by Mr. Mitchell, and the only one, apart from Mr. Race, who has not backed down. Even in February 2024, as this action was progressing toward trial, he said in an online interview, quote, "Billy Mitchell needs to be destroyed in court. These people need to be punished in a big way before they stop. They need to get taught a lesson. So I am now the last chance. I am the last chance the public has to punish Billy. And also, the last person on YouTube you want to lose to is me. You know there's going to be 100 vids rubbing it in. I will never let Billy forget this, assuming I win. I've got to win first, but man, if I win, oh boy, I'm not going to be a good winner."
Oh no! If I win, oh boy, I'm not gonna. This was Germany at the beginning of World War I, right? Not to say the Treaty of Versailles was good or anything like that, and obviously, it's better the world works together and everybody's friendly. But I think one of the things that's said of Germany, for as harsh as the Treaty of Versailles was, that if Germany's side would have won World War I, they would have done just as bad to the other side in extracting lands, in taking territories, in laying reparations. But, oh man, these are brutal statements. Are these guys both in court here, or is this just read and recorded or something? I wonder if they're both present.
I've got to win first, but man, if I win, oh boy, I'm not going to be a good winner. End quote. Mr. Jobs clearly intended to be the knight who slew the Mitchell dragon. Unfortunately for him, his lance was not as strong as he believed it to be, and it has broken in the contest. I have found that all of this conduct has caused Mr. Mitchell additional personal harm and additional harm to his reputation. It was severely aggravating conduct that merits an award of aggravated damages. Again, I will come shortly to the amount of aggravated damages that I will award. I was asked by each party to make adverse findings about the truthfulness of the other party's witnesses and the reliability or otherwise of their evidence. In my full reasons, I have given detailed consideration to those submissions. I don't propose to reprise that discussion and my conclusions now. Having made these findings, I consider that Mr. Mitchell is entitled to an award of damages against Mr. Jobst. I have considered other comparative cases in order to help me to decide the appropriate amount. Under the Defamation Act of Queensland, the maximum amount of damages for non-economic loss, that is, general damages, not including any aggravated damages, is currently $478,500. That amount can only be awarded in the most serious case. In addition, though, in appropriate cases, additional aggravated damages can be awarded, and there is no statutory limit on aggravated damages. Mr. Jobst contended that for a number of reasons, any damages I award should be minimal, or at least reduced, due to two mitigating factors. One of those factors was that he published the so-called retraction video. For the reasons I've already mentioned about...
Just as a quick thing, so remember, this is kind of like a joke I kind of said, not really, but like one of the nice things, or I guess bad things, depending on how you view it, is that in court, you can't like be cutesy with these statements. So like in the YouTuber world, you can be cutesy with like, oh, like I said I was sorry, oh, I did this, and it's like, well, no, like judges or juries will like read your statements and they'll read them, you know, with context, and you can't do these like cutesy, stupid little like, oh, look, I retracted this thing, and it's like a judge is doing a plain reading of what you're saying, and it sounds like from the video that guy released, from the video that Karl released, it sounds like he didn't really retract it, and he, yeah, just you gotta. When it comes to court, the only thing that matters is what's submitted to the record and like the actual factuality things of what have happened. You can't get by with like the cutesy retarded shit. Like, oh, not to say that like courts always deliver the perfect verdicts or whatever, or that people can't be incorrect, or that juries can't fuck up or whatever sometimes, but let's keep that in mind. The in a video game defense doesn't work here. Yeah.
About that video, I do not consider that it had any mitigatory effect. Rather, publishing the retraction at the time and in the manner he did was an aggravating feature of his conduct. He did not publish it in a way that would draw it to the attention of the original audience, but instead essentially hid it from view. And of course, he did not retract any of the imputations against Mr. Mitchell, nor apologise to him. The second reason he gave for mitigation of damages was that Mr. Mitchell, he said, has contributed substantially to the harm he has suffered because he put the offending part of Mr. Jobs' video into his response video, saying, quote, "For those of you who haven't seen it, here's the clip."
Oh,
quote.
no.
Mr. Mitchell's video showing that clip has remained online ever since. It has been downloaded at least 155,000 times. As I say in my read...
So he's saying that the apology video was actually so bad that rather than being a mitigating factor, so something that would lessen the severity of something, the judge is interpreting it as an aggravating factor that has actually made it, that apology video made it worse for Karl because the video was such a bad retraction. It didn't even really retract what was being said. And as part of that video, apparently he played the thing that he was being accused of being bad faith on, or the imputation or whatever. And so now all he did was he posted a video that didn't even have a real retraction, and then he republished the defamatory remarks in that apology video. So that video actually hurt him more than helped him. Yeah, Jesus.
Reasons. This submission might be described as suggesting that Mr. Mitchell called in an airstrike on his own position. I disagree, both by making the response video and by bringing this proceeding against Mr. Jobst. Far from calling in an airstrike on his own position, was necessary for Mr. Mitchell and reasonable for Mr. Mitchell to identify the enemy's position clearly in order to call in an airstrike on it. That is what he has done. He made clear in his response video that he denied the imputations made by Mr. Jobst and that what Mr. Jobst had said was false. His conduct in publishing this video was reasonable, and it does not justify any reduction in the amount of damages. Factors particularly relevant in determining the appropriate amount of damages include the number and seriousness of the defamatory...
Wait, I think the judge was talking about the response video, not the retraction video. Mitchell republished, Jobst didn't. Oh, wait, did I misunderstand that? Hold on, wait. Let me listen again.
Mitchell, he said, has contributed substantially, but additional aggravated damages can be awarded, and there is no statutory limit on aggravated damages. Mr. Jobst contended that for a number of reasons, any damages I award should be minimal, or at least reduced, due to two mitigating factors. One of those factors was that he published the so-called retraction video. For the reasons I've already mentioned about that video, I do not consider that it had any mitigatory effect. Rather, publishing the retraction, conduct of this litigation, together with his additional online comments about it, were aggravating features of his conduct. He seems to see himself in defending this claim as a crusader against Mr. Mitchell. Online interview, quote, Billy Mitchell needs to be destroyed in court. These people need to be punished in a big way before they stop. They need to get man, if I win, oh boy, I'm not going to be a good
the
winner.
retraction, sorry.
On 29 July 2021, that is about 6 weeks after he finally edited the video and took out the offending passage, Mr. Jobst published a video in which he retracted his statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell money, and he apologized to his viewers for having given them incorrect information. At the trial, he relied on that video as being evidence of his bona fides and as reducing any harm caused to Mr. Mitchell by his original video. However, that video did not retract the imputations at all. It simply retracted the statement that Apollo Legend had paid Mr. Mitchell a large sum of money. Mr. Jobst did not apologize to Mr. Mitchell in any way, rather apologizing to his viewers for having made an incorrect statement in the offending video. Also, this retraction video was, in total, a little over 30 minutes long.
No, wait, what? What? Wait. Did I misunderstand? He's going over the retraction video. It sounds like that retraction video hurt him more than helped him. Am I misunderstanding that, or?
The first 28 minutes and 24 seconds, it had nothing to do with arcade gaming, cheating, or Mr. Mitchell. It was about a particular type of
You haven't
speedrunning.
gone back to the part you
It then
messaged.
went blank
Okay.
for a few seconds before it returned with Mr. Jobs' alleged retraction statement, which itself lasted only about 45 seconds. Even then, he wrongly said that Mr. Mitchell had not tried to contact him to clear up the error, and he insinuated that he still believed Mr. Mitchell was responsible for Apollo Legend's decision. Finally, Mr. Jobs' conduct of this litigation, together with his additional online comments about it, were aggravating features of his conduct. He seems to see himself in defending his claim as a
Wait, what did I misunderstand? You went too far back? Okay, right.
crusader against Mr. Mitchell. He is the last of the defendants who have been sued by Mr. Mitchell, and the only one, apart from Mr. Race, who has not backed down. Even in February 2024, as this action was progressing toward trial, he said in an online interview, quote, Billy Mitchell needs to be destroyed in court. These people need to be punished in a big way before they stop. They need to get taught a lesson. So I am now the last chance. I am the last chance the public has to punish Billy. And also, the last person on YouTube what you want to lose to is me. You know there's going to be 100 vids rubbing it in.
Yeah,
I will never let Billy forget this, assuming I win. I've got to win first, but man, if I win, oh boy, I'm not going to be a good winner. End quote. Mr. Jobs clearly intended to be the knight who slew the Mitchell dragon. Unfortunately for him, his lance was not as strong as he believed it to be, and it has broken in the contest. I have found that all of this conduct has caused Mr. Mitchell additional personal harm and additional harm to his reputation. It was severely aggravating conduct that merits an award of aggravated damages. Again, I will come shortly to the amount of aggravated damages that I will award. I was asked by each party to make adverse findings about the truthfulness of the other party's witnesses and the reliability or otherwise of their evidence. In my full reasons, I have given detailed consideration to those submissions. I don't propose to reprise that discussion and my conclusions now. Having made these findings, I consider that Mr. Mitchell is entitled to an award of damages against Mr. Jobs. I have considered other comparative cases in order to help me to decide the appropriate
Okay, I don't know. Apparently I got something wrong. I'm not sure what, though, but okay.
amount. Under the Defamation Act of Queensland,
Somebody said this is a perfect example of why you don't talk about court cases publicly. I mean, it depends on... It really depends on what you're talking about. Generally, if you want to maximize success for winning a case, usually not talking about it publicly can be good. But when you have public figures that are fighting each other, one of the considerations you have to make is in a civil case, generally the only damages you're looking at are usually, hopefully, well, in this case, it's just going to be monetary stuff, right? So let's say that it's the case that, and hopefully this, I guess, isn't the case because I guess that would be pretty bad. But like, let's say that it's the case that Karl Jacobs would have actually, not Karl Jacobs, I'm sorry, Karl Jobst. Let's say that he made, $500,000 from the extra videos that he published attacking Billy Mitchell. And then let's say that as a result of publishing those videos, he lost a $300,000 case. It might be that he made more money or he gained more from making public statements about the case than he would have from just not talking about it at all, right? That makes sense. So, I mean, like, generally you don't want to make public statements about a court case because you can either incriminate yourself further, or you can hurt your ability to actually settle on a thing, because now you've made public statements committing you to a stronger position. But and for the case where public figures are involved, and there's a whole bunch of like reputation and money on the line, regardless, you know, win or lose, sometimes it makes sense to, you know, fuck it, you know, make a statement or don't make a statement or whatever, you know.
Maximum amount of damages for non-economic loss, that is, general damages, not including any aggravated
Timestamp of what Chad is talking about.
he gave for mitigation.
Oh, okay. I haven't gotten to that point yet. Okay. Sorry.
Damages
Going back there.
is currently $478,500. That amount can only be awarded in the most serious case. In addition, though, in appropriate cases, additional aggravated damages can be awarded, and there is no statutory limit on aggravated damages. Mr. Jobst contended that for a number of reasons, any damages I award should be minimal, or at least reduced, due to two mitigating factors. One of those factors was that he published the so-called retraction video. For the reasons I've already mentioned about that video, I do not consider that it had any mitigatory effect. Rather, publishing the retraction, at the time and in the manner he did, was an aggravating feature of his conduct.
Also, in the case of public figures, your lawyers might adopt a strategy to influence potential jurors by speaking a lot publicly about it. You might be able to do that, but I think you have to be careful of that, because I think judges can get mad at that. And obviously, part of jury selection, you know, you can toss jurors if you feel like they're biased against you.
Rather, publishing the retraction, at the time and in the manner he did, was an aggravating feature of his conduct. He did not publish it in a way that would draw it to the attention of the original audience, but instead, essentially, hid it from view. And of course, he did not retract any of the imputations against Mr. Mitchell, nor apologise to him. The second reason he gave for mitigation of damages was that Mr. Mitchell, he said, has contributed substantially to the harm he has suffered, because he put the offending part of Mr. Jobs' video into his response video, saying...
Oh, I'm so sorry. I understand what's being said now. Gotcha. Okay. Karl is making the argument that, okay, fine, even if I lose... This is a good defense, by the way. Even if I do happen to lose this particular case, the damages that you're going to award this guy, you have to factor in that this guy has taken, he's engaged in behavior that's furthered his own reputational harm by republishing my defamatory statements. Sure, okay. Because remember, for part of damages in a civil case, you have to argue that it was the defendant that did things that caused damage to your reputation. So, like, let's say, hypothetically, let's say some guy goes into a bar and says, oh, this guy, John, he raped his wife. And then let's say that John goes to social media and John blasts out to like a 20 million follower social media account. He says, hey, this guy claimed that I raped my wife. This is fucking insane. And then let's say he decides to sue him for all the damage now reputational that he suffered. Well, if John was the one that went to social media and exploded that statement to everybody, then or if the guy that, if John did it, then the defendant can claim, well, hold on, even if my comment would have qualified me, to pay damages for reputational harm or whatever, this guy is the one who actually publicized these statements more than even I did, and most of the damage should go on him, rather than me, is an argument.
He has suffered because he put the offending part of Mr. Jobs' video into his response video, saying, quote, for those of you who haven't seen it, here's the clip, end quote. Mr. Mitchell's video showing that clip has remained online ever since. It has been downloaded at least 155,000 times. As I say in my reasons, this submission might be described as suggesting that Mr. Mitchell called in an airstrike on his own position. I disagree, both by making the response video and by bringing this proceeding against Mr. Jobst. Far from calling in an airstrike on his own position, it was necessary for Mr. Mitchell and reasonable for Mr. Mitchell to identify the enemy's position clearly in order to call in an airstrike on it. That is what he has done. He made clear in his response video that he denied the imputations made by Mr. Jobst and that what Mr. Jobst had said was false. His conduct in publishing this video was reasonable, and it does not justify any reduction in the amount of damages. Factors particularly relevant in determining the appropriate amount of damages include the number and seriousness of the defamatory imputations, the extent of their publication, the effects they have had on the plaintiff personally and on his reputation, and what is known as the grapevine effect. The grapevine effect is the likelihood that the defamatory imputations have been and will be repeated to other people over time, and they may even surface again after this judgment. The grapevine effect arises particularly in cases of defamatory imputations made on social media or other internet sites, including YouTube. In this case, there is ample evidence of the extent of the grapevine effect. It has been very extensive. The evidence is the number of comments on Mr. Jobs' video, and also comments made on another online personality's videos about Mr. Mitchell, which even recently included assertions that Mr. Mitchell had caused or contributed to Apollo Legends' suicide. Coming to the amount of damages that I will award, Mr. Mitchell seeks $400,000 in general damages, that is, damages for non-economic loss, as it is described in the Defamation Act. In my view, that is too high, being too close to the maximum permissible amount. This is not one of the most serious cases, although it is at the higher end, especially given the most damaging imputation that Mr. Mitchell hounded Apollo legend to death and the extent of publication. Mr. Mitchell's aggravating conduct has been serious and ongoing, including in his evidence at trial and in his publications about this litigation. It merits substantial aggravated damages, and Mr. Mitchell asked for $50,000 in aggravated damages. I have concluded that there should be judgment for Mr. Mitchell in the sum of $300,000 for non-economic loss and $50,000 in aggravated damages. As I say in my reasons, he may well have been justified in being ordered to pay more than $50,000 in aggravated damages, but that is the amount sought by Mr. Mitchell, and that is the amount I shall award. In addition, Mr. Jobst should pay interest on those amounts. Unless I receive submissions for some other order as to interest, it seems to me, from other cases, that the appropriate rate and period of interest will be 3% per annum from the first date of publication to today. That amounts to a total of $40,446.58. Finally, ordinarily an unsuccessful party is ordered to pay the successful party's costs of the proceeding. At present, I see no reason why I should not make such an order against Mr. Jobst. However, I shall give the parties an opportunity to seek an alternative costs order, either now or by written submissions to be provided within 14 days, but preferably now. The judgment of the court is therefore 1. Judgment for the plaintiff for damages for non-economic loss in the sum of $300,000 plus interest, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, of $34,668.50. Judgment also for aggravated damages in the sum of $50,000, plus interest of $5,778.08, subject to either party seeking a different order as to interest upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days. 2. Unless either party seeks a different order as to costs, either upon delivery of this judgment or by filing and serving a written submission within 14 days, the defendant pay the plaintiff's cost of this proceeding. I published my reasons together with a short summary of those reasons. Both documents will be publicly available shortly on the Queensland Court's website. Are there any submissions on questions of interest and cost?
Rip. Well, what level of court is this? It's just civil court, so probably the first level. I imagine you can probably appeal it, but I mean, it sounds pretty cut and dry unless there's something else. Okay, just so everyone's aware, this current leg of the trial is done. It's finito. It's in the can. It'll pick up next month. Okay, this is the 20th, 2024. Oh, this is, bro. Or what? This is way too much. Fuck this. Okay. Rip. Can you summarize this case, please? I couldn't focus my brain through the fog of its boring-ass accent. It sounds like what happened was Karl made statements about Billy, basically saying that Billy caused this Apollo dude to kill himself, or was substantially the reason why he killed himself, because Billy forced Apollo to pay him out a huge amount of money in a settlement related to videos that Apollo had published about him. And Billy said that that's not true, that Billy never forced him to pay any settlement out, and that it's just a false statement. Apparently, Karl knew this or had access to this information very easily. Billy either made it available to him or other people had, but Karl never really retracted it. And when he made a video apologizing for it, it was like a half-assed apology, not really, and he didn't really substantially retract any of it. And so that's what this court case was over. Now, I think the extra drama here is that Karl, I think, I'm just going by 2 Reddit comments I read, so I could be wrong on this, okay, warning. But apparently Karl Jobst was fundraising money from people, from his community, from the internet, basically saying, Billy is trying to take me to court, guys, because he's trying to defend his gaming record. He's trying to sue me to silence the haters because I've come out and I've exposed him for being a cheater in video games. And so we need to raise money so we can fight against Billy, okay? Because he's trying to sue me just because I said that he cheated at video games. And now that the verdict and everything has come out, now people are like, well, hold on. Billy is a piece of shit and Billy did cheat, but it seems like you made some fucking retarded statements, Karl. that you knew were wrong, that are completely fucked, and now you've lost this case, and why the fuck did you fundraise for this knowing that you were... Yeah, that's what it sounds like, basically. That's like the internet drama part. Okay. Thank you, Midlu. Can we see those reactions? I don't know. I just saw a thread on YouTube drama earlier. Karl tweeted out, there are a lot of lies being spread that I falsely claimed Billy sued me because I said he cheated. I never claimed this. I only claimed it was a relevant part of my defense. Ooh, oh no. The top comment in this thread, now YouTube drama are literally like socialist tanky people who are like super fragile, so maybe this is not representative of the internet's response, to be fair. But this is a case where being technically correct isn't the best kind of correct. It is technically correct that Karl never said defamation was for cheating, but it is correct to say Karl framed, nudged, and winked his videos to think it was about the cheating. Dude fucking handed a certified cheat a slam dunk of a defamation case and is now mad that people are upset with him. I just flat out don't believe him. He made like 10 videos about this lawsuit, all of which were pertaining to Billy cheating, and never once thought to mention that that was not the reason he was being sued. Are these filings, like, are none of the complaints public in Australia? Are they all private? At what point will you leave America? What's your biggest reason for staying? Oh, will I leave? I don't know, dog. My biggest reason for staying is, one, I'm familiar with being here. Two, traveling internationally, or like, I don't know if Nathan could visit me like another country. That would get really weird. Three, I mean, I still do all my events in the US, and flying over the Atlantic to go to LA or New York would be a huge headache. Four, I already get raped by my taxes in the United States. Oh God, that IRS just came from my bank account today. It would be even worse in other countries. Fuck that. Five, I've got Dan here for anything else. Six, yo mama. So you finally decided to pay your taxes here? I did pay my taxes. I regret it. I thought streamers plus in Florida would have favorable taxes. There's not much you can do for streaming to like preferentially like tax avoid, you know. Florida has no state tax, but there's still federal income tax. Who the fuck is going to believe? I never said I was being sued by the cheating allegations. If legit, everyone is surprised that Mitchell actually sued for something else. Bro already lost a trial with his shit and now is trying it again with his fans. Oof. Juicer said he has a whole tax team to reduce his tax burden. Do you have something similar or just TurboTax? I mean, I have a CPA, but I don't know what XUC's team can possibly do. Unless I think all you can do, unless, there's just nothing you can do. It's straight income, right? There's tax preferred plans. So like I could theoretically open an HSA or another type of health plan with my company and save and put like $5,000 into it to save that from tax money and buy my Vyvanse with that maybe. I don't know. Or investing in like education plans for Nathan, but this is all like pretty small dollar stuff. It doesn't help much. The big way to do it, I think, but I'm never going to do it because fuck that shit, is related to real estate. How much is your tax percentage for all of your income? For my gross income, it's like fucking 35%. I get raped. That's why I was upset when that Scott Galloway piece of shit said that his effective tax rate is like 17%. Fuck him, okay? I'm getting fleeced. I'm getting hosed down by the government, all right? Somebody said open an LLC in Panama. That's not tax avoidance. That would be tax evasion, which is illegal. XTC hired an accountant and they told him he needed a team to get more money. I just don't believe that. There's no way. Unless they're like managing his money for like real estate investments. I don't know what else you could do. You would have to start like a side business. You'd have to like, I imagine you'd have to turn your LLC or whatever small entity into a formal corporation. And then from there you can engage in like big business practices that are tax deductible. But if you're just like earning through like some pass-through entity, I don't know how you can, I don't think there's much you can do. Destiny voted today in Wisconsin for Wisconsin Supreme Court. Good job. Got a few friends to go too. I couldn't convince my dad to go vote though. He hates both sides. Your dad is a loser. Tell him I'm gonna fuck his wife and your mom. This is why Amaranth bought gas stations. I don't think Amaranth bought gas stations. I think she just gives her money to like a private equity firm and then they do it. She doesn't individually own them. But that still might be a smart idea. I don't know. Talk about the Florida special elections? Not yet, because I don't know much about them. And I don't think I can vote on any of them, right? Do canvassing for Wisconsin? I can't do anything right now. Okay, I gotta wait for my stuff. Today's the last day to vote. Well, if you live in Florida or Wisconsin, you better vote in those fucking elections, you pieces of shit. Or we're gonna find you and we're gonna get you. Carl's old pickup videos. 4 years old.
Hey guys, it's Karl here. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a simple and easy approach you can do if you're looking to overcome your fear of approaching.
Okay, I don't care. Apparently Rubio is doing an old, or not Rubio, I'm sorry. Cory Booker is doing an old-fashioned filibuster.
The largest expansion of veterans benefit program in probably the last 30 or 40 years, and you need people to
Damn, Cory Booker got hella pale.
administer that program. And instead, they're firing people. And the Secretary of the Veterans Administration says, don't worry, it's not going to affect services at all.
I'm sorry, wait, we've done this before, right? You gotta give me this one. Cory Booker absolutely looks like the other agent guy in Burn Notice, right? Everybody agreed with you, right? Kobe Bell. This guy absolutely looks like Cory Booker, right?
How close are Mike and V? Think they're gonna be
power and glory forever
and ever. Amen. Maybe he's
to let you know, for those who are watching, that we have timers going.
Hey guys, just letting you know.
So that you can see exactly how long he's been going.
I've got
magic
Michael.
number here is 24 hours and 18 minutes is Strom Thurmond's record.
I've got Brian Tyler Cohen's timer going up on the top, so we can watch Brian Tyler Cohen watching Cory Booker.
At Seneca Falls, how did we get here? Because of people whose names I don't know.
Has he really been up here talking for 20 hours? He didn't take a nap or anything? What a warrior.
You have to make a splash to be able to take a sip of long advocate standing.
Douglas to then an unknown woman who did the most heroic things. Her name was Harriet Tubman.
What?
How did we get here, America, to this privileged place? Well, we got here because of that incredible
those who are watching,
infrastructure project that this place didn't fund called the Underground Railroad, where black Americans...
How is it that during civil rights we had an underground railroad, but we can't build like subways or anything now? Can somebody explain that? Was it just the power of freedom? That technically wasn't civil rights. I guess that was like fighting against slavery, but that's even longer ago. What the fuck is going on there? At Destiny, I love you, but your son wasn't anywhere in that list, which is just wild. Who do you think Nathan is? Do you think it's just my... True. I was talking about the other Nathan in my life. The Trump admin acknowledged in a court filing Monday that it had grabbed a Maryland father with protected legal status and mistakenly deported him to El Salvador, but said the U.S. courts lacked jurisdiction to order his return from the mega prison where he's now locked up. Uh-oh. Was that a joke? What I said earlier? I understand that the Underground Railroad back in the day was, they didn't have like actual subways, right? I think they were like carts that the people, you did like the up and down thing to move them. I know it wasn't subway stuff, but I'm just saying, like, if you could build all of that underground back then, why can't we? I understand that the Underground Railroad, that's metaphorical. There wasn't an actual Underground Railroad. Yes, okay. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Jesus. The case appears to be the first time the Trump admin has admitted to errors when it sent 3 plane loads of Salvadoran and Venezuelan deportees to El Salvador's grim terrorism confinement center on March 15th. Although ICE was aware of his protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error, the government told the court. Trump lawyers said the court has no ability to bring Abrego Garcia back now that he is in Salvadorian custody. This is like kind of the big worry that I said before about anybody that gets deported, is the government's just going to say, oh, can't get him back now. Sorry. Goodbye. Any confirmations on Musk stepping down from Doge? I don't know. I mean, he's not even the formal administrator of it, so who knows? Why can't the Trump admin just ask the El Salvador president to send that guy back? The El Salvador president is a dictator that is cool with Trump because he doesn't want to ask him. That's why. That's why. Don't ever... That has nothing to do with jurisdiction or custody or anything else. It's because Trump doesn't want to ask them to come back.